All right, let's just jump right in. There's a massive, and I mean massive amount of buzz around humanoid robots in China right now. A recent Morgan Stanley report really dug into this whole phenomenon, so today, we're going to walk through what they found and try to separate what's real from what's just hype.
And this quote, it pretty much sets the stage for everything. The report kicks off by saying that this powerful, widespread enthusiasm isn't just noise. It's the fuel in the tank, you know? It's what could really drive the entire industry forward for years. It's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the sheer scale of this robot boom. Then, we'll hit it with a little reality check. What are the actual limitations? After that, we'll explore the tangible progress that's being made, and finally, we'll see how this all fits into China's huge global strategy.
So let's start right at the epicenter of all this excitement. I'm talking about the recent World Robot Conference. Apparently, the atmosphere there was just absolutely electric, which really signals a major shift in how the public sees these things.
And we are not talking about a small increase here. The report describes a huge jump in attendance from just the year before. It's a clear sign that this topic has just exploded into the mainstream.
But you know what's really telling? It's who was there. This wasn't just your usual crowd of engineers and investors anymore. Nope. The conference was packed with the general public, even families bringing their kids along to see the future. That's when you know it's become a cultural phenomenon, not just another tech trend.
And no surprise, all that excitement spilled right over into the financial markets. Analysts started saying, hey, all this fascination could actually lead to a real 2 to 5% bump in stock prices for companies in the robot supply chain. It just goes to show, hype creates real financial momentum.
And the industry is not about to let that momentum fade. You've got major events planned, like a global robot competition, and there are even whispers that we might see these robots in a national parade. The plan is clear. Keep these machines front and center and keep the excitement level high. Okay, so the enthusiasm is undeniable. But what happens when all that excitement runs into the cold, hard reality of today's tech? Let's get into the current limitations.
So this is the core issue right now. Think about a simple task like sorting some blocks or folding laundry. You and I can do that in a few seconds. Well, the report noted that current humanoid robots often take over a minute for the same thing. So they can do the tasks, but they're just not efficient enough for widespread practical use. At least, not yet.
So if we have these amazing-looking machines, what's the actual bottleneck? What's stopping them from being as fast and effective as a person?
And the answer really isn't the hardware, it's the software, it's the brain. The biggest challenge is training these incredibly complex AI models, what some call visual language action models, that allow a robot to see, understand, and then interact with the world. And that takes an astronomical amount of data. This has kicked off a huge debate in the industry. On one side, you have people who believe using simulated, computer-generated data is the only way to get the massive volume needed to train a truly general-purpose robot. But the other side argues that simulations can never really capture the chaos of the real world. They say, just like with self-driving cars, there is simply no substitute for real-world data.
So, that software challenge is massive. But while the AI experts are debating data, the hardware engineers are making some incredible strides. Let's look at the physical building blocks that are helping to close that performance gap.
There's been a major shift in focus here. For a long time, the main challenge was just getting these robots to walk properly. But now, the industry gets that to be truly useful, a robot has to be able to interact with the world. And that means the hands are everything.
And we're seeing a really rapid evolution. Early models had simple grippers, maybe some 3-fingered claws. But the new standard, when everyone is racing to perfect, are these highly complex, 5-fingered dexterous hands that look and act a lot like our own. This is a huge leap forward in what they're capable of.
Now, to make those hands actually work, you need a sense of touch. That's where tactile sensors come in, and they're becoming standard equipment. This chart shows just how critical they are, with one company, TacSense, reportedly dominating about 80% of the market. This tech is what allows the robot to feel pressure and adjust its grip, which is essential for any kind of delicate task.
But before we see bipedal 5-fingered robots everywhere, the report suggests a more practical version might lead the way. Humanoids on wheels. It's a pretty pragmatic compromise between that future vision and what's possible right now.
And the reasons for this are just incredibly practical. Wheeled bases are more stable, they have much longer battery life, they can carry more weight, and the software to control them is a whole lot simpler than what's needed for two-legged walking. For businesses looking for a return on their investment, this just makes more sense in the short term.
So we've got these practical hardware solutions paving the way while that grander vision develops. This brings us to our final section, the industry's incredibly ambitious goals and its strategy to take this technology out to the world.
And these companies are not thinking small. Just look at these delivery targets. UBTech, for example, is aiming to go from over 500 units in 2025 to potentially 3,000 in 2026. These are not just prototypes anymore. They are planning for mass production on a really aggressive timeline.
Their strategy for getting to market is also really key. They're aiming for global expansion, but they're starting by targeting standardized places like retail stores or warehouses. A shop or a warehouse is way more predictable than a chaotic home or factory, which makes it much easier to deploy and scale up the technology.
And this all feeds into the ultimate goal. The strategy isn't just about selling robots. It's about building and solidifying China's position as the leader in the entire ecosystem, from the hardware and software to the data and the apps, the whole shebang.
Which leaves us with this final thought. The hardware is getting better at an astonishing pace. The hands, the legs, the sensors, it's all advancing. But the true differentiator, the ultimate prize, is intelligence. The race to solve that massive data and AI bottleneck is on. And the question of who gets there first, well, that's likely going to define the future of this entire industry.